Hi, this is Mark Francis. I'm the Vice President of Network Operations Center Planning for AT&T, including Network Emergency Response and Business Continuity Planning. We're here today for a unique experience of touring our Network Disaster Recovery site. This site is AT&T's response to a horrific disaster that might destroy one of our network centers, and our ability to recover that center and provide communications to both businesses and consumers. One of the main functions of network disaster recovery is the ability to provide emergency communications during a disaster. So we have a number of pieces of equipment on site today, including our cellular satellite Colts, which are cells on light trucks. These are the ability to deliver, if a cell site goes down, this is the ability to deliver that cell site on a truck and provide communications to people in that area on their normal cell phones. So no need for satellite phones or anything like that. Your normal cell phone taking a feed from 25,000 miles up in the air off of a satellite down to one of our vehicles, and then that cell call or data service will work. We also have emergency communications vehicles which provide voice and data. So very important during a disaster, especially for first-in responders, to have this type of equipment set up so that they can communicate. And what we've found over the past few years is it's becoming equally important to have both voice and data. We're finding during disasters that people also need the high-speed data services to have CNN streaming video or maps or whatever they need on a data service is as equally important sometimes during a disaster as the ability to make that phone call. So we deploy these vehicles in support of first-in responders. We also deploy these vehicles for humanitarian efforts. Examples being, we had a horrific storm season in the southeast this year. The Joplin tornadoes that everybody's familiar with, the Mississippi floods. We had these vehicles located down in those areas after those events very rapidly so that people can continue to communicate. During Hurricane Irene, we actually had 4 satellite Colts on sites that were helping people to continue to communicate during that event, which was also horrific. So we're seeing a lot of technology here on this site today, but one thing is true, none of it works without power. And during a disaster, one of the first things that usually is impacted is commercial power. So we bring everything we need to sustain this site. We bring a significant power infrastructure to the table with some very large generators and backup redundancy generators so that we can keep this site functional with or without commercial power. So with these generators, they require fuel. And there's a significant process and supply chain in place that we have with local fuel suppliers across the country that enable us to get the fuel required to keep these generators going. That's an important strategy for power if we need to stay for an extended period of time to recover from the disaster. You know, our network disaster recovery program has to deal with a lot of different types of disasters. We have natural disasters like earthquakes, hurricanes, floods, wildfires, ice storms, and we have economic type disasters that happen. Think major strikes that could cripple supply chains. We have social kinds of disasters. Think pandemic disasters like H1N1. We have potential for terrorism up to and including war. So the one that we could really track and understand what's going to happen before it hits are hurricanes. Hurricanes, we can see them coming. We track them out of our Global Network Operations Center. We stage our power resources, we stage our hazmat resources, and we stage as many trailers as we can as that storm's moving in so that we can be ready once it impacts. For the other types of disasters, you just have to be prepared to go when the bell rings. So in order to respond to a disaster, it takes an entire ecosystem to pull it off. Starting with, we have AT&T, we have our Global Network Operations Center. We also have local response centers and emergency operations centers. And that's managing what's happening inside of AT&T. In addition, we have connections into the National Coordinating Center in Washington. That's where all of the service providers and others sit and understand information to and from the federal government. if the State Emergency Office of Office of Emergency Management is set up, we also have individuals in that center understanding what state and local constituencies have. But what we do in network disaster recovery, as we take these exercises around the country, is we always take the time to meet with the local fire departments. Fire departments are usually in charge at ground zero at the local municipality for disasters. So we meet with those fire companies to understand their rules of engagement and so that they can understand what we bring to the table trying to recover communications so we can work well together. That is part of what we call preparation in preparing for that disaster, understanding the local rules of engagement in every municipality across the country. We're standing in one of AT&T's 90 technology trailers. These trailers are built to enable us to recover a central office that's been destroyed in our network. This particular trailer is what we call a layer 1 aggregation trailer. The amount of data that traverses our network today is staggering. We handle over 27 petabytes of data. To give you perspective on that, 27 petabytes of data is take a CD-ROM and stack it from the floor to 36 miles high in the sky, and that's how much data traverses AT&T's network on a daily basis. In 2010, we handled over 704 billion text messages. That's 22,000 text messages a day. When capacity is removed from our network because of a disaster, we call it a smoking hole scenario. A building that used to be there with this type of equipment in it is completely destroyed. We have to be able to put that capacity back into the network, and that's where these technology trailers come into play. We configure them together and cobble them together just like we would in a central office. We bring technology SMEs to the table. They're able to work on this equipment because it's just like the equipment in their central office, and we're able to put that capacity back into the network. And we do it in such a way that the rest of the network believes that building is still online and functioning. So when we come into a disaster situation, we're not sure what we're going to find. We're not sure if any of the local hardware stores would have things that we would need to survive. So we have our own hardware store on wheels. It's got pretty much everything we would need from a tooling perspective. As a matter of fact, coming to this location, because this parking lot is so slanted, we had to build our own bridge. And with that bridge, to use this hardware store to build that bridge. Now this is a serious piece of network disaster recovery. We call it NDR Special Operations. It's about hazardous materials response, so it's a hazmat function. We have 30 individuals from across the company who basically are level A and B certified hazmat professionals, and 12 of those have received certificates from the University of North Carolina as certified telecommunications hazmat professionals. What this means is it's just like a fire department where they will go into some pretty dangerous situations in these big suits that keep them safe. They'll go into those dangerous situations, but they're not going in to save lives. They're going in to save the network. They're going in so that we can turn network service on as fast as possible, even if it's a dangerous situation.